Hello, everybody, and thank you so much for joining us. Man, it's taken us a little bit to log on this morning. For some reason, all of our computers think it's a Monday, but thankfully it is not. It's a Thursday, and we're all here and just so excited to spend some time with you during our live today. I have some amazing guests and definitely a little bit different for those of you who have joined us before on our lives. We'll be hearing a little bit more from our client side of the business. And when we say client, we're talking about our facilities, all of the great places that you go to work. So really excited to give you a little bit of a different perspective. As you know, our goal with our AMN Live Q&As is to really hear from you and to answer questions that you have. And this was actually something that you wanted to hear a little bit more about. So before I jump in too much further, I'm going to have my amazing team here introduce themselves. Corey, you're at the top left of my screen. So why don't you kick us off?
Wow, I'm honored to be able to be on this. I've tried to get on this invite list for quite some time, so the fact that we made it is amazing. So yeah, my name's Corey Bolt. I am the division vice president for Client Sales Nursing Division, and I have been with the organization for a little bit over 5 years, and really happy to be here and be part of this chat with some of my amazing internal colleagues, Christina and Taylor. So.
I love it. We're so excited to have you, Corey. And then Christina, you are next on my screen. Christina's FaceTiming with us today. She's having a little bit of issue with her computer, but we're happy she's here because she has some great stuff for you.
Thank you. Yeah, sorry that I'm on my phone. I had a little bit of bandwidth issues on my computer, so we made a switch. My name's Christina. I am a MSP account manager here at AMN. I've been with the organization since 2014. I've had experience working with core clients, so our direct and third parties, and now I've moved over to the MSP side.
I love it. Welcome, Christina. And for those of you who don't know what that means, Christina works with our exclusive clients. So those ones that we have really great relationships with that we can get you into and give you a ton of information on. And then Corey actually helps to get new facilities for us to present to you, our clinicians, so that you just have opportunity and flexibility. So both on that facility side. And then Taylor, tell us about yourself. Everybody's a little bit more familiar with what you do, but tell us a little bit about you.
Yeah, so I'm Taylor. I am a recruiter. I joined AMN a little over a year ago, and I really enjoy it. Just being able to, I'm very interpersonal. I love interacting with all of our nurses and placing them with great facilities and getting them great pay at the same time.
I love it. We're happy to have you, Taylor. Well, for those of you who have joined us and for those who haven't, you know that I always start these things off by just thanking all of you for everything that you do. There's no way that we could have gotten through the past 2-3 years now since COVID without all of your dedication, your willingness to support, and just your continued dedication. We're just so thankful for you. You see Corey nodding, but can't thank you enough and can't start one of these out without just that appreciation and gratitude. So thank you. One of the things I'm going to kick us off with is we've also heard from you that community is something that's really important to you and something that you want to be a part of. And we love hearing that. We want to provide you a platform to be able to do that. So if you haven't already downloaded AMN Passport, here's your reminder to download the AMN Passport app, get signed on there. And we actually have a really cool contest going on where you can write a blog post for us and tell us about your travel nursing experience. I know I personally love to read them, and I know your fellow travelers enjoy it as well. So jump on there. You can also find the details on our Instagram page at AMN Nurse. So that's my plug to start us off. And now I'll let you hear from all the people you came to see. But I wanted to start off. One of the things, guys, that we've talked about is what's going on in the market. We've had a lot of our wonderful clinicians that started and raised their hand and felt that calling to really support patient care in a totally unique and different way during the start of the pandemic. And that was kind of their introduction to travel nurse, which for all of us, we know that is a very rare, thankfully, that we have that kind of demand, those kinds of spikes in different markets. So you hear pretty constantly, what does the market look like now? What is it going to look like in 2023? How is this different? And I think, Corey, you were going to talk to us a little bit about just what you're experiencing in conversations with facilities out there.
Yeah, I think we have we've all been able to ride along willingly or unwillingly with this COVID coaster the last couple of years, right? So I think it's been quite a ride, and I think we all have been able to kind of collectively exhale a bit, right? I'll tell you, we are still seeing pretty significant demand compared to pre-COVID days. So if we were talking about 2019, right? So we're still seeing substantial growth. I think what we're talking to clients right now on the front lines about is, and that we're hearing from clients is really like cost containment. Like, okay, it's been a spending spree a bit over the last couple of years, just because we've needed clinicians by the bedside. We've been in a dire situation. And so now in order to kind of take a step back, they're really wanting to know, how can we help them on the cost containment piece and really put together a more comprehensive plan that covers all of the clinicians, right? So from travel, for per diem, for crisis and rapid response, and really looking holistically at all of our programs. So, is the boost of COVID over? I think so. I maybe don't put this on record, although this is probably being recorded. So that's out there. But I think, the demand as to where we saw in 2021, 2020, and even 2022, we're still going to see some of that demand through 2023 to a degree. So.
Yeah. And I think hopefully everybody on this call has heard loud and clear that you are still very much needed. Patient care is top priority. Something I wanted to get into, because I know our time is limited here today with all of you, but something, Corey, that you and I were talking about yesterday, and then Christina, I'll come to you, is just the well-being of our clinicians being at the forefront of our minds. So you just heard Corey say demand is still high. We're coming out of that pandemic time period. We're normalizing a little bit. Facilities are looking at care a little bit differently, but let's talk about the well-being of our clinicians, because I think that's our driving principle.
Yeah, and I think it is an indicator of impacting staffing levels, right? And I think I think I shared with you on a couple of our calls earlier that I had a chance to sit at a CNO event earlier in the year in Nashville, or prior to last year in Nashville, and just listen to some of our senior leaders at the chief nursing officer level, as well as just those that are connected to the patient experience. And wellness was a big piece of that, right? Agnostic from travel, perm, whatever, just in general, clinicians in general, just the wellness and how they have programs, the systems and or agencies have wellness programs directly impact the staffing levels, right? And patient experience scores. You got a bad experience with a patient, they're not going to return, or the clinician is overwhelmed. And so then that impacts staffing challenges. And then, we have the situation that we continue to be in. We've had a supply problem prior to COVID. It has just exacerbated it now. And so I think one of the things that we offer that I talk to clients is about our wellness programs with our travelers, and that, we do shepherd them through that process. And so it's a pretty big topic, and something that we're starting to lead in on the client sales side is just tell me how your clinicians are doing. What programs do you have in place? We want to know that. So when, Taylor and Christina are on the clinician end to book them, they have a good pathway to be able to explain what it's like at that particular facility. So,
and it starts that far kind of in the pipeline, so to speak. Christina, I'll come to you, and then Taylor, I'll go over to you on this topic as well, because it is something that we hear a lot from our clinicians is this burnout. I can't imagine what all of you have gone through over the past few years as far as just what that day-to-day work life looks like. So that well-being, all the things that we offer. But what I thought was really cool is that you don't normally hear from account management, because they're on the other side of kind of the communication funnel or kind of pathway. But Christina, you were talking yesterday about just some of the questions that you ask to our clients or to nurse managers that you have communication with to really understand what our clinicians are walking into.
Thank you. And I wanted to just take this time just to say thank you to all the nurses that we do have on the line. We do really appreciate each and every one of you. And yes, Saundra, when we were having this conversation yesterday, it got me thinking about how when I do have these different nurse managers reaching out to me saying, hey, we have travel needs on this unit. Can you please help me staff? I always give a call and just say hi to introduce myself if I haven't worked with them in the past before. And then I just start to just ask them about their unit. What does the culture of your unit look like? What's your nurse to patient ratio? What are the types of cases that you're used to seeing there? And 9 times out of 10, they'll always tell me, oh, my unit's very, very traveler friendly. So I will always just push a little bit more and just ask them, can you give me an example of a time that comes to mind where, your unit really did embrace the travelers? Or can you tell me an example of your traveler friendly unit where, our clinicians that we're sending over there will feel like they're being well integrated or well supported within your facility? Pre-COVID times, we did client visits and things like that. Now that we're coming at the end of the pandemic, client visits have been few and far between. So these are units where I can't physically go and meet these nurse managers and see what it's like there. So asking these kind of exploratory questions of just tell me, bring me to your unit, tell me what it's like to be there, so that we can relay that information to our recruiters so that they can paint a better picture for the travelers and make sure that it will be a good fit.
And what I think is so great about that, Christina, and for all of you who are looking to travel here, is that those are great conversations and to have with your recruiter. So Taylor, I know you're going to talk to, because we have very close relationships with these internal partners, as Corey has said, so that we can get more information and really help you make an educated decision as to what makes the most sense for me. What does traveler friendly mean? Taylor, anything to add to what Christina just said?
Yeah, diving just a little bit deeper. There are times where I reach out if that's definitely a concern with my travelers, as far maybe if they've had a negative experience before. That is something that I'll ask about is, what is, the environment like on this unit? What is the nurse manager like? So I can kind of let them know, especially if they want to do a phone interview, they'll kind of already, know the vibe, know how to go into it a little bit better. And then I always just like to add and make sure that they know, especially if they're booking, like we offer resources outside once they get booked. If they ever need anything, we have the EAP, or the Employee Assistance Program, through Guidance Resources. And through Guidance Resources, it's not even just about if you need to speak to somebody, but it's also, you can go there for like nutritional help. And there's such a wide array of things that you can look up on there as far as legal, financial help if you need it. But then it all starts with, I think most of the recruiters that I've come in contact with and that I work with, you can always come to us, talk to us, let us know. I like to think I have a pretty good relationship with everyone of my nurses, and I always let them know I could never do what you do. So I know I'm extremely grateful. I could just never do it. The sight of blood or just alone doesn't work for me. So it's definitely it's really important for me to have them know that I appreciate them. And so I try to do everything I can to be there, help them.
Totally. Corey, I saw you come off mute.
Yeah, Taylor, I was just going to echo kind of the support. I think the other thing is we have such a robust and experienced clinical support team that is assigned to those clinicians. And I've leaned on them. It's like, hey, this chief nursing officer has asked me a question. This facility contact has asked me this question, and I just don't know how to answer it. Can I bring the expert on? I'm not a nurse either. So much like you, Taylor, I don't know how I would do with the blood situation. It scare me a little bit, but I think we have those folks that can relate, right? And they've lived the life. And so to be able to offer that level of support just outside of the day-to-day, and like maybe they're just having a bad day, is just, to me, a value add that some don't. And I think that's important to call out. The other piece that I like to mention, Christina, that you talked about, was just the traveler friendly. That's a pretty loose term. And so one of the things that I've heard from facilities is, when I've asked, hey, what has your experience been with agencies, and how can we serve you better, is just integrating the travelers into the facility that don't live in that community. You touched on community, Saundra, just our past community, but just in general, to how can we help them integrate? So having them come in and having then be treated as a perm employee of that staff and to
Right.
be involved in community events and wellness opportunities at the site is imperative to the success of the partnership. So.
Right. And something you talked about a little bit with us too, Corey, is just we have facilities and clients that we work with all over the country. And it's a big deal. I think the top stressors in life, or one of them is moving, one of them is starting a new job, one of them is, I don't know, you probably know them all at the top of your head, but two of those things our travelers are doing. So it is a little bit stressful, and it's nice to know that for all of you, when you do take a travel assignment with us, that we've had these conversations on the kind of on the forefront before you even think about traveling there, to say, what is the environment that you're walking into? Does it provide flexibility? Does it provide overall well-being for you as an individual person? Will this place work for you? We know that you're all very different, so there might be something that works for one person that might not work for another. But I think, Corey, you were talking about in particular one facility in Detroit, which is just very different for potentially someone who hasn't been in that environment before, or been to that big of a city, or hears things on the news. So I loved your comment on just having conversations with the CNO of what do you do, right? And talking more about that.
Yeah, I think that's the piece, because you're dealing with humans. We're in a human industry, right? We're dealing with people who have lives, and sometimes their cameras don't connect, or they miss their flight, or
Right.
they go from a small town in the South, and then they get they work on an assignment in a big city. It could be overwhelming. And so I kind of put it back on this particular leader and said, what do you do to integrate clinicians?
Yeah.
That's a big piece of, so we can then take that back to make it more seamless, to then try to help your patient experience scores, which then directly impacts staffing levels, right? So
Yep.
It's all well connected. And I think, that's the exciting thing about doing what we do, and just being a strong partner with our clients is consulting on that on the front end, right?
Right.
Versus after they're on assignment, and trying to then be reactive to the challenge of the issue. So.
Right, definitely. So many great things that we've talked about already. And one of the things, Corey, that you mentioned, and that Taylor, you talked about a little bit as well, is just that 24/7 clinical support that we do offer to our clinicians. I think I talk about our clinical support all the time, because they actually know what you're doing on your unit. They know how to have those conversations with nurse managers, or insert whatever. But they do also help us with things outside of just clinical support. So Christina, I'm going to come to you, because I know you had a pretty unique story, but I think it showcases that at AMN, we really want to treat all of you, and we strive to treat all of you as individuals and know what's going on. We know sometimes you're in a brand new places, in most cases, where you don't know anybody, and your team are the people that you see right here. Your recruiter, their communication with the account manager, what the account manager is hearing from the nurse manager. So Christina, I'll kind of turn it over to you with that little bit of a precursor of just taking care of the individual.
Thank you. I did have a very unique situation recently where I had a nurse manager reach out to me, and I'm going to be very careful to give very vague details here. But I did have a nurse manager reach out to me. I have a very close relationship with her. I've been working with her for probably the last 10 months. I talk to her almost daily. I mean, I'm sure that whenever she sees her phone ringing and it's me, she's like, oh my God.
Which is probably surprising to our clinicians that we talk to nurse managers on the daily, but yes.
Consistently. It's all the time. But this nurse manager had called me, and she was like, hey, Christina, I really need to talk to you about Nancy Nurse. She insert nurse name. And I said, yeah, sure. What's going on? And she said, I don't want to overstep my boundaries here, but I'm very concerned about her. And then I said, tell me a little bit more about that. I said, did she not show up for work today? And she said, no, she's scheduled tonight. But we had an incident where basically she got a call from someone claiming to be somebody, saying that this nurse was in the hospital. And it was very vague, very strange. She came to me with her concerns. I immediately called the recruiter while trying to maintain, privacy for the clinician. I called the recruiter, let him know what was going on. I called our clinical team and said, I think we need to do a wellness check on this nurse because of the reasons that were given to me by this nurse manager. Turns out that this nurse was involved in a domestic violence situation. It was a very serious situation. But we were able to reach out to her, contact her, provide her with resources to get her essentially to a safe place, and provide her resources for just basically the trauma that she went through. She was very grateful for us and very grateful for our team that kind of stepped in and enacted on this. It really honestly comes down to just your relationship with your recruiter, the nurse manager who had the foresight to reach out to me and say, something's wrong. These are the things that I've seen. This is the most recent thing. I think you guys need to call her, basically.
Mm-hmm.
We all tried to reach out. We ended up, I'm not going to get into like super detail about this, but she was contacted and we were able to help her get out of
Just
this.
to provide that
situation
support.
that she was in.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's the big thing here, and part of the reason for sharing that kind of story in just a little bit of detail is that we know that we're working with people. And we all have things going on personally. We all have lives outside of just going to work day in and day out. And it can be really scary to be in a place where you don't know anybody and nobody knows what your norm is. We're fortunate that if I walked into the office today and was just a little off, somebody would probably ask me a question, and you don't necessarily have that all the time. So we really work with our clients. We work with your recruiters, of course, to make sure that they understand the full you. What's normal for you? How are you feeling? Why do you want to take a travel assignment? What's exciting to you about it? Taylor, anything to add to just how we take care of the full clinician?
I mean, I feel like we've talked about a lot of it, but just really, I think it all comes down to making sure you have that personal connection, to where they feel like they can reach out to you, they can speak to you. Because like I said, if they didn't want to go straight to guidance resources or use the programs that we have, at least maybe they can come to you or to the clinical liaison, and come to us with whatever concerns. So I feel like first and foremost, we do know that we're working with humans, we're working with people, and know that they are also working with humans and working with people and have other people in their lives. And they can't take care of them if they're not being taken care of or taking care of themselves first. So
exactly. Huge statement, and 100% true. Corey and Christina have something to add to that.
Yeah,
So Corey,
I was going to compliment Christina. I think, one, good for you for being an advocate for her and for your client. And man, what an awesome client to be able to work with. That is, you have that kind of relationship. I think maybe the lessons that we can learn from this on the folks that are attending this is that you've got such a huge team of advocates on your behalf, and it's greater than the business side, right? I'm not calling Christina. You're not calling in there to say, hey, what do your order numbers look like? Or what do your needs look like? It's truly like you care about your relationship. And I think that's what's different about this organization. I think that's why we pour into the clinicians, and that's why we ensure that we're working with clients, that they understand that, and that, that we want to know how it is at that facility and how that leadership is. And it starts at the ground level as Taylor's recruiting for those clinicians and all the way to, those contracts being signed and bringing on new clients. So it's a team effort for sure. It takes a village.
Definitely. Christina, something to add?
I wanted to just reiterate just that a little bit and just to layer in a little bit more. I mean, just for everyone that is listening on this call, like if you are in a situation like that, or even if it's not something that, you don't feel super comfortable talking to your nurse manager about, you have a recruiter that will advocate for you. And please know that behind the scenes, you have not only the recruiter, but the account management team, the clinical team, you have the nurse manager, you have a whole team of people at AMN that you may have never met before, but we're all here to make sure that your assignment is successful. You feel supported, you feel like you are in the right place, because at the end of the day, we want to make sure that you are taken care of and that the patients at the hospital are taken care of, because it could be somebody's, mother, father, brother, sister, or their kids that need this patient care. And we're going to do our best to make sure that you're happy and that you're healthy and taken care of, essentially.
And Christina, that you feel safe, right? At the end of the day, do you feel safe?
Mm-hmm.
And that, do you know that what you do is important and why you do it is important? And that's what we try to make sure you've got coverage on that, and you've got a huge team to support you on that. So that's a good call out, Christina.
And I think you could probably ask most people at AMN if they've ever been directly impacted by one of our travelers on assignment. And most of them would probably say yes, which is just really full circle and a big impact. We know that we're placing you on assignment, as Christina mentioned, into a unit, into a facility where you could very well be taking care of someone that we care about and someone that we love. And we want to make sure that you're in the right spot to be able to do that as well. One of the other things that I wanted us to talk about, so we know from our clinicians, and one of the reasons we want to talk about the market is that there's a fear with traveling of this kind of big bad word, cancellation. And it does happen. I know, Corey, yesterday we were talking about cancellations have happened. They will continue to happen. They are not fun when they happen, but they are part of travel nursing in general as needs change, as census changes. But Corey, I know you were going to talk a little bit about how AMN is unique in being able to support our clinicians to hopefully avoid as many cancellations as possible.
Yeah, I think Christina and I talked a little bit about this because it's in unison with the front end on the sales side, and then certainly on the delivery and account management piece. But we try that on the front end to get make sure our agreements cover us for that, right? Not only contractually, but just in how you operate. And we want your facility to be a facility that travelers want to go to. So if that facility begins to get the reputation that they're going to cancel willy-nilly whenever, or don't have a good control on what their census is looking like, that makes it down to Taylor as she's, if she's facilitating calls inbound and outbound, that the word gets out. And so we typically ask for, 30 to 45 days notice so we can then redirect or we can help consult. And so I think, to be really reactive is not a good approach, right? So we try to consult on the front end to put processes in place from an agreement perspective, and also just from an operational perspective on cancellation. I know Christina's super passionate about that, and so I don't, not to play on each other.
She is. Christina, I'm going to come to you 2 seconds. And I think a big thing that you said there, Corey, is that we work with the client on the front end. We can also, with a lot of our clients, use predictive analysis to help them understand what that census is. Christina, I'll come to you though, because I know you have thoughts here too.
Just to echo what Corey was saying, just about the 30-day notice. If a facility comes to me saying, we want to cancel these nurses, my first response to them is not always like, oh, okay, let's go ahead and do that. I always push back. Well, why do we want to cancel? What's going on in the unit? What has changed? Is your census changing? Is this a cost thing? What exactly is happening? Because at the end of the day, we don't want this to impact patient care. So if we do need to proceed with cancellations due to, they're closing beds or whatever the case may be. If there was a census change and these clinicians are no longer needed, we're trying to redirect them within the hospital. Chances are that if you're a traveler, you're probably floating to other units. So if there's another place where we can kind of plug and play you and put you into another unit to finish your assignment, that's what your recruiter and I will work towards. But I've also seen, where we unfortunately can't save a cancel at a certain hospital, but I will be providing, redirect options to the recruiter or, to another account manager saying, hey, I just got cancellations for this particular unit. I can't find them a spot where I am. Could you, potentially reach out to this recruiter and work together to see if we can move them over to like a sistering hospital or somewhere in close proximity.
Right. And I think that's huge. So hopefully everybody hears that loud and clear, is that we expect cancellations will continue to happen at a very normal rate, and that's okay. We want you to be prepared. And we know, again, we've been saying kind of time and time, we're working with people. You're picking up your lives. So we want to push back a little bit and say, do we really need to cancel? Can we go someplace else in the hospital? But what you also heard Christina say is that we work with each other to make sure that we can fill a need where the need is, and keep you working, keep you in a place where you're not worried about what does the next 2 weeks look like. Maybe I just got here, or maybe I was hoping to extend and that's just not a possibility anymore. And then Taylor, I know that you were going to add on just a little bit about what that conversation looks like with your clinician too, to make sure that you all are aware that it's not, nobody wants to cancel anybody, but sometimes it is a part of travel nursing. And Taylor, anything to add?
Yeah, so I kind of wanted to just point out something that you just said. it does feel like if cancellations are happening, it's happening at more of a regular pace. I do feel like as rates were stabilizing, as COVID kind of came to the endemic phase, it felt like there was more of them. But I feel like in the past few months, I haven't felt like we've had quite as many. I think, the facilities, account management, everybody's kind of figured out maybe different ways to try to avoid it, or like they said, we're fighting for you. We're trying to not have that be just the first option, and then accepting it. But in the case that a cancel is unavoidable, then, and the facility is not able to redirect you to another unit or isn't able to get you at another facility close by, the recruiter's going back and looking at previous notes, all the conversations that we've had. We're talking about, if there's other locations that you were interested in, we'll talk about those. If we can't keep you in the same area, even with a different health system, we're looking not just at a plan B, but trying also to look for plan C, plan D, to make sure that we can get something lined up for you as soon as possible, because we know it's urgent. We don't have weeks to try to get you somewhere. You need money now. So you need a job now. And that's what we're trying to make happen.
Exactly. And such a good point, Taylor. And I will just say one of the other great things about traveling with us is that we offer so many different types of services to you. What I mean by that is that even if we don't have a travel assignment that we can pop you into right away or as urgently as you need, we do work with our local team, our recruiters over there, to be able to support you and get you into a per diem position for a little bit of time. So hopefully that gives you a little bit of a sense of peace, and knowing that even if that does happen, we're here to support you through that. I know it's been a big concern and a big topic for a lot of our clinicians. Well, we're kind of wrapping up, and I haven't gotten any additional questions in the chat. So if you do have anything you're dying to ask the panel, please throw it in there. But hopefully it's been educational for you to really understand our current market, where this team believes that we are going, and then just for you to know the support system that you have when you do travel with AMN, not just in your recruiter, not just in the clinical team, but what we talk about with our clients at the very front end, like Corey, what our account managers are doing in their conversations that they have daily with nurse managers to see how things are progressing on the unit. So you have just this team of people who is here to support you individually as a person as you continue through your travel nursing career. I will kind of end this on a more positive or happy note. I always like to ask on these, and I didn't prompt you or prep you guys for this, so no pressure. I do always like to end this conversation or this dialogue with, if you were a travel nurse, what area of the country, so I know you all are going to want to say facilities, but tell me what city maybe would you like to travel to? And while you're thinking about it, I'll just make one final plug that we've heard loud and clear from you, that you are looking for that community and you want to be a part of a travel nurse community, or wherever it is that you land as a clinician. And our passport community feature has just gone live. We're looking for blog posts to add on there, but want you to check it out. Again, if you haven't downloaded Passport already, do it now, and just check out that community section to see and hear from all of your fellow AMN travelers. Christina came off mute really quick when I said, where do you want to go? So Christina, I'll go to you first.
I literally think about this question all the time. Like, cause
I love it.
I've always like just in my mind been like, oh, it'd be so great to be a travel nurse. Like, I feel like that'd be so cool. And like, I'm not downplaying like how easy that would be, because I realize it'd be very difficult. But in my mind, I'm always like, it would be amazing to be a NICU nurse in San Diego. And I'm not just saying that because I lived in San Diego and it's the most beautiful place to be, but I love babies. I have 2 children of my own. And I just feel like being back in California would be amazing. But if I'm going to just say, okay, place I've never been to before, why not Hawaii? So I'm going to say, I specifically want to be a NICU nurse in Hawaii.
Love it. And I love that you've thought about the specialty. For any of my NICU nurses out there, I think we've definitely had one NICU nurse on our lives. I couldn't do it. So thank you, because I could not do it. But so funny, Christina. Corey, what about you? You were like second to come off mute.
Christina, I didn't know we were adding specialty. That's a whole nother question. So I also love children. So I would say pediatric nurse, not necessarily just NICU, but let's just go with that because I think that's a good choice and in demand, like most nurse specialties. I live near, I'm in the South, and so I live near the beach, and so I go to the beach pretty frequently. So I love the beach. So I don't want to do something that I normally would do on a regular basis. I'm all about the experience. So I would probably pick our mountain region. I think like Denver is a cool area. I like the outdoors. I like hiking. It's a beautiful landscape. So to me, Denver would be kind of a cool place to work.
I love it. The great thing about Denver is that you have the snow around you, but
Right.
it usually doesn't snow a ton or stick in Denver. So there we go. I love it. All right, Taylor, last but not least.
Specialty. I guess we're all kind of related to like around kids and stuff. Because I think I'm very grateful for the labor and delivery nurses that I had for my 2 girls. So labor and delivery, I think, would be the way to go. As far as location, it's actually on my bucket list to go to all 50 states. So I'm living vicariously through all my travelers.
Love it.
And I haven't been to California yet. And there's so many different places to go as far as Northern California to Southern California. So I think if I was a travel nurse, I would just kind of start at the top and work my way down.
I love it. Taylor, you would be going to every single state, right?
Yeah.
We'll find you an assignment everywhere.
Yes.
I love it. I do see that we got a question in the chat from Opong. We'll actually take that question offline for you. I'll have the marketing take it down and get you an answer. So thank you for the question. Well, I am just going to wrap us up, but thank you all for joining. So much great information, and hopefully all of our listeners have just gained so much additional knowledge as to why they should travel with AMN if they're not already. But thank you for the time, and thank you to all of our clinicians yet again for everything that you do. We wouldn't be here without you, and we're just so appreciative of your day in, your day out, your dedication to patient care, which is why we're all here. So thanks everyone. We'll see you on our next live.